First at 5, unsafe buildings in Portland and what happens when they catch fire. That's the challenge firefighters face when flames race through an old empty church in downtown. But thanks to an unsafe building designation, they had advance warning of what they'd be up against. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laurel Porter. Today, firefighters talked about how that warning changed their strategy. And we're also looking at other places around Portland deemed unsafe. Tim Gordon joins us from downtown now. And Tim, these buildings are all across the city.
All right, Laurel, we checked and there are currently 64 buildings deemed unsafe. And we want to be clear, that means unsafe for firefighter safety. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're uninhabitable.
We had a hose line on the 3rd floor as well as a hose line on the 2nd floor, and it was just labor intensive opening up all the walls.
And it was starting to hit this structure, this home here.
Thursday afternoon, we heard from firefighters first on scene who made a valiant effort to save the structure next to the old Korean church. The church that burned like an inferno is now a pile of rubble. The old church rectory, now an apartment building, is still standing. It was advance information about the vacant church that warned firefighters to stay out for their safety.
So it is a multi-pronged approach to warn the first in engines, trucks, companies that there's unique hazards to them fighting fire in an offensive strategy.
Battalion Chief Tom Walsh was working the night of the raging fire last week. He is also a structural engineer and coordinator of the Fire Bureau's Unsafe Building Program. The program has a list, and the church that burned was on it. Many on the list are not vacant, like the Barber Court Apartments in southwest Portland. Miguel Martin lives at a newer place next door and says the people at Barber Court are nice, but the building is not.
It just looks bad, man. It's cracking, it's getting worse and worse. I mean, nothing's really being done about it.
Again, the Fire Bureau unsafe designation is for firefighter safety. Other city inspectors decide if buildings are so dangerous they need to be condemned. For instance, this tall old home in Southwest is on the firefighters' unsafe list, but it's been operating as an apartment building for a long time. Nearly 10 years ago, a Fire Bureau inspector said he found conditions that would be tough for fire crews, saying fire operations and laddering the building would be very difficult. Looking at the place, you could see why. I spoke to the building owner who says they have a working fire alarm system, have regular fire inspections, and crews even came up and practiced their plan there. Other buildings, like the vacant Gordon's Fireplace building at Northeast 33rd and Broadway, have the use sign for unsafe, although looking at this place, it's obviously a danger to enter. But others, where people continue to work or live,
they're completely within the fire code, building code to be operated in the manner that they're in. And there's numerous of them, and they're relatively safe for day-to-day habitation and use, but they present unique hazards to responders.
Another note, the unsafe building designation isn't just about keeping firefighters out of those buildings when they're burning. They also come up with specific plans for each of those properties on how to fight them from the outside. Laurel?
Thank you, Tim. The man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students appeared in court this morning. The judge asked suspect Brian Koberger and his legal team if he wanted a preliminary hearing. They opted for that, but not a speedy one, instead requesting a date 6 months from now. They say they need the time to prepare for the case. A new court date has been set for June 26th. NBC sources also revealed Koberger wasn't considered a suspect until December 23rd. An affidavit previously made it appear he'd been a suspect for weeks prior to his arrest. Police say he killed the 4 students on November 13th. Koberger has not entered a plea yet. Now to Portland's gun violence epidemic. It is touching every corner of the Rose City. In fact, in the last 3 months, we have seen 4 shootings outside Portland high schools. It's top of mind for Portland public school leaders who are slated to meet with public safety officials to discuss solutions. Let's bring in Mike Benner now. Mike, what can you tell us about this meeting?
Yeah, I can tell you it's scheduled for tomorrow morning at PPS headquarters in North Portland. We know that Superintendent Guadalupe Guerrero and several school board members will sit down with Portland's police chief and Multnomah County's sheriff and district attorney, as well as other civic and public safety leaders, to discuss the gun violence impacting our city's kids. This is an issue that is troubling to many, including the Portland Business Alliance. In fact, just this morning at the downtown Hilton, the Business Alliance invited the police chief, sheriff, and DA to its monthly breakfast to discuss the issues plaguing Portland, and that includes gun violence. You have to keep in mind that gun violence accounted for a large number of the record 96 homicides in Portland just last year. Portland Police Chief Chuck Lavelle did not mince words. He said there are a lot of guns on our streets. They're seeing guns in places they typically don't. And perhaps that explains the 4 shootings outside Jefferson, Cleveland, and Franklin high schools dating back to October.
It's very concerning. I've had direct conversations with the principals at Jefferson, Cleveland, and Franklin just in the last 4 months as they've had incidents. And the schools are near and dear to my heart in my time as a school resource officer. So we're continuing those conversations. For us, we just want to play a role, whatever that looks like for police, in keeping our kids safe.
Again, Portland Police Chief Chuck Lavelle will join 14 others at PPS headquarters tomorrow morning to discuss the alignment of resources, collaboration, and holistic solutions when it comes to gun violence. KGW will be there and will, of course, pass along any developments. Let's send it back to you.
Thank you, Mike. In one of her first legislative actions, Washington Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez has helped introduce a bill to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. Supporters of the bill say it would prevent lawmakers from using their positions to benefit their investments and increase trust with voters. It has support from both members of both parties. Gluesenkamp-Perez, a Democrat from Southwest Washington, is serving her first term after winning election last November. Today, Oregon health officials held a briefing on respiratory viruses in the state. Although many hospitals are still operating at capacity, overall virus transmission appears to be slowing. Starting with RSV, hospitalizations are quickly dropping, and we're now past the peak for cases in children. That's great news. As for COVID, hospitalizations in Oregon have dropped over the past week as well. Experts predict in February, though, we will see an increase in cases of the new COVID Omicron subvariant, but they say there's no cause for panic about it. The subvariant does not lead to more severe illness than past variants.
As we move into 2023, the trends look much better, that we will not be having the same conversations and seeing the same heights of surges that we saw in previous years.
As for the flu, experts say cases do remain high, but we did hit the peak for adults in December, and cases in children are just starting to drop. There are a ton of new tax credits out there tied to home improvement projects you could be jumping on thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act. You just have to know about them. From insulation to solar panels to heating and cooling systems, there's a lot of money out there to make things more efficient. Environmental reporter Cale Williams helps us find out the best way to take advantage.
My advice to them is to be excited.
Take a breath. Look around your home. What's the easiest and best improvement that could be made right now? The Inflation Reduction Act provides a whole slew of new tax credits for upgrades. But Lizzie Rubidoux with Energy Trust of Oregon, she cautioned, don't rush out and buy new insulation or a heat pump or new windows all at the same time.
Folks don't have to think, gosh, I have to tackle all these projects at once. I have to do a huge energy efficiency upgrade. Not at all.
Each of the tax credits is different, but most of them have a yearly cap on how much you can get back on your taxes. For example, if you get new insulation in your home, you can get a tax credit for 30% of the total cost, up to $1,200. For windows, the cap is $600. For heat pumps, $2,000.
In some cases, it may make sense to sort of stagger your investments.
And that's because the cap resets each year. So in theory, you could claim your $600 for a few windows this year, then do a few more next year and claim another $600. These tax credits are going to be around for at least the next 10 years, so there's no need to feel rushed.
That's not how most of us make improvements to our home. I've been working on making energy efficiency upgrades to our house for, almost 15 years now, and we're still not done.
Rubidoux walks the walk, too. She has energy-efficient windows, solar panels, and a new ductless heat pump system that heats and cools her home. And having a more efficient home is definitely good for the climate, But that's not the only selling point.
Yes, it's great for the climate and that's, part of the big picture, but it's also going to help you save on your costs, and it's also going to make your home more comfortable and in some cases healthier in terms of, improving the quality of your air.
Rubidoux also said that in many cases, the federal credits can be paired with state rebates and other discounts for even more savings. But navigating all those overlapping incentives can be tricky. So we have a post up right now at kgw.com that lays out some of the details with links to Energy Trust of Oregon's website and some other documents that can help clear up the confusion. Cale Williams, KGW News.